All right, everybody, welcome to Bleav in Chargers, part of the Bleav Network. Matt Money Smith here with Lorenzo Neal. Week 2 in the books. The Chargers are tied for the best record in football, 2-0. They have the stingiest defense in the NFL, and they have the NFL's second most productive running game behind Green Bay, stuff we're all going to get to after a dominating performance on Sunday in Carolina, which is where I sit right now, Lo. The great Lorenzo Neal, somebody who's got to be awfully excited about these first 2 weeks of football that the Chargers are playing, the brand of football that they're playing. Lo, Coach Harbaugh deciding to stay on the East Coast as we're getting ready to travel up to Pittsburgh on Saturday morning. But a lot of bonding going on, a lot of guys walking around together, hanging out together, doing exactly what he said, playing card games and stuff. It's been a real interesting week here so far as we record this in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Money, my question to you is who's winning all the money, no pun intended, because I know those card games in between those card games get pretty heavy. I remember being in Tampa Bay and Derek Brooks and Jeff Gooch, they're playing in between. You know, you got in betweens. Yeah. Ace can be high, your ace can be high or low, either or. And then, you know, guys say, I potted. Seen the pot get up to about $5,000, and guy says, hey, you know what? I'm potting it. Dude, he gets another ace and friggin' he loses the whole pot. And you're like, wow, loses 30, 40,000 bucks. I'm like, guys, guess what? You guys, I'll keep watching. I'll keep my little fullback money and I'll let you guys keep playing and losing it. But watch it. So those games can get pretty interesting, those card games. So hopefully they're singing Kumbaya and hopefully they're not losing too much money. But hey, good for the Chargers. Big win last week on the road against Carolina. Knows one, probably, I think it's the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah,
but
it is.
You found a way to win, and kudos now on to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's and a reminder, if you can, please rate. If you don't mind leaving a review, even if it's just a line or two, that helps. Leave comments on the YouTube post. We love to respond to those. So thanks, everybody, for interacting. Always appreciate that. And follow our Bleav, BLEAV, on all of our social channels. Look, it would have been a completely different vibe had they not won that game. And I think it's something worth pointing out that in the past, you know, there have been these letdowns. I just think back to last year, week 2, right? Explosive offense, week 1, a shootout to Miami. You go to Tennessee, a game you absolutely should have won. They lose it. We sit on the plane for, 3-4 hours coming back to miserable. And before you know it, you've kind of dug yourself in a hole, and you know what the numbers are because Baltimore's 0-2, the Bengals are 0-2. And if that's your mark, I think it's 2 or 3 out of the 41 teams since they went to 17 games have made it to the postseason. So to be 2-0, to take care of business in dominating fashion, to be able to rest the defense on that final series, send all the backups out there. Lo, it sends a statement. It makes a statement because they won it the way they wanted to win it, and that was by dominating up front on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no question, Money. And I'll tell you right now, I'll give you a steak dinner. I went to bet online and I made some money. I told you I was going to bet hard on the Chargers. The line was only 6 points. Chargers covered easy. So it was huge. And I think when you talked about just what the defense was able to do, you watch this defense the last 2 weeks, they've been playing lights out. Yeah. You got a defense that don't give up a lot of big plays. They're running to the ball. And I just want to know, this is what they have to do to sustain. You have to be able to sustain this type of defense because it's about not making mistakes, limiting the offense to the 3 and outs, winning on 3rd down. So when you do that, that's winning football. You go back and you look at that Raider game. That Raider game was nick and tuck. Either team could have won that game. That game was in the balance with 4 minutes left in the game. And because they won the turnover battle and took care of the ball, you won that game. Now look at the Raiders, go on the road to Baltimore, find a way to win. The Raiders are a team, people are like, the Raiders are Raiders will win 8 games. I guarantee you, because the way they play football, they're playing like Harbaugh. They try not to make mistakes. They got a defense that get after you. Damn the Chargers. I like the way these two teams are playing football, but I love the way the Chargers are able to continue to run the ball, pound the ball, not make a lot of mistakes on defense and offense, and limit the amount of touches the other team has.
Yeah, it's a big part of it. I'll say, you mentioned Bet Online. Might as well point out, most trusted betting platform, #1 source for everything football, every stat, matchup, live odds, and spreads you can bet on during the games. And if you know your stuff, get in on the 200 grand mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week. It's your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, go to the casino. It's online. Get some blackjack or poker, one of the slot games in. Get to the website today. Get in on the action like Lowe does. Bet online. The game starts here. So when you go to the box, Lowe, as I pull it up, you mentioned, right, when you check out the team stats, like this is the number 1 scoring defense in football. They're top 5 in everything. And, top 5, well, I shouldn't say that. I think they're top 15 against the pass, but top 5 against the run, top 5 in third down conversions, top 5 in first downs allowed, top 5 in time of possession. They allowed 7 first downs in that game on Sunday against the Panthers. And they allowed 1 for 12, 1 third down conversion out of 12. And that's, like you said, that's winning football. Yards per play, 3.5. I mean, poor Bryce Young, I feel terrible for him. 26 attempts to pass for 69 yards. He got benched. The game was won up front, though. And if you go back, I watched every play back earlier today, and the offensive line just got pushed on every snap. There's so many great things to come out of it. The tight end blocking, Hayden Hurst is supposed to be your pass catching tight end. He's out there blocking his tail off, man. And you had 22 out there a bunch of times. You rushed for first downs on third down multiple times. And that is something we have not seen from this team in the last 6 seasons. So it's a different style of football. It's a style of football that's winning football, that takes the air out of the ball, that dominates time of possession. 36-18 to 23-42 was the time of possession for the Chargers. And so much of it, and we shared this stat on the broadcast. Chargers since 2000, games that you were part of, Lowe, now 23-1, including 2-0 this year, when they amass more rushing yards than passing yards.
When you can do that, and that's what's huge on this team, when you can rush the ball more than passing yards, that tells me a lot. It tells me one thing for sure. You're dominating time of possession. Because when you're running the ball, you know that, and you can rush for more than throwing, you're dominating time possession, and you're kicking somebody's butt up front. Because when you're talking about running the ball 4 or 5 yards a clip, and you're dominating, that means you're winning in the most important part, and that's in the trenches. And that's what this offensive line been doing in the tight ends, the fullbacks, and you got 22 personnel, 2 backs in the back, but you're watching the way that they're dominating running the ball. You even saw that, hey, they put in a design run for Herbert. Pick the ball, sweep, run around to the right side of the bank. Great blocking, guys out in front. He's going out there picking up extra yards. When you're doing that, and now you have some design runs, you got the give, and now he pulls, and you got the heavy formation. The different things that they're doing, it gives defense headaches. It demoralizes defenses.
Yes.
It makes them understand that, hey, my goodness, on third down and 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, teams are passing. No, they're running the ball. Now your guys are getting worked. They're getting pushed back, getting ate up. You can't rest guys, because on that 3rd down, you bring in those guys to come and get off the field. Now you got to run back on the field because it's a first down. Then you continue to do that. You beat teams up, and you saw Carolina. Yeah, the quarterback position. We talked about it before the game. This kid struggled. You need to bench him. He's seeing ghosts, throwing to ghosts. Just he turns the ball over. But you have broken his will. But you broke Carolina, not just at the quarterback position. You beat them up front in the trenches where it counts.
Yeah, you could see it in the 4th quarter, just be, look, I'm never going to, you can say it, I would never say it, but you could just see the lack, I don't want to say quit, you could see the lack of aggression attacking the blocks by the 4th quarter.
Defeated.
And it's understandable. The team's down 20-0 at the half off a game where they were down 30-3 at the half of the week before. I mean, you got Quentin Johnston throwing his helmet on the sideline. You could just see players taking plays off. It's a mess. It is a mess of an organization. It's easily the worst team I've ever called a game in the NFL that's been on the field. Easily. Yeah. Like I don't know. And look, it might not be individual talent. I think that's a big part of it, though. You look at that roster, and there's really not a lot there that you could see starting for a bunch of teams. Clowney can be a rotational player at one of the edges. J.C. Horn, the corner, outside of that, there's really not much There's really
It's
Shaq
not.
Thompson, there's not much there. But so I'll bring this up low. If you can, guys, if you just go back and watch the J.K. Dobbins explosive, watch the 45-yard run for the touchdown. I think it says it all. When you watch the way that thing is schemed and blocked up, right? You've got Gus Edwards is the fullback, right? Here's a guy that signed here thinking he was going to be the number one. Instead, they signed J.K. about a month later. Looks like he's the number one, even though they're kind of splitting carries a little bit, but clearly it's J.K. So Gus is lined up as the fullback. Your converted defensive tackle to a fullback, Matlock, is attached on the left side of that line. Matlock seals off on the inside. Slater, of course, just cleans out his block one-on-one. That's easy. So those guys are blocking the inside seam. And Edwards makes the key block, man. Here's a guy who would love to get that carry. Instead, he's asked to make the block as the fullback. He seals off that I think it might have been a corner or a backer. I don't remember what it was. And then
corner.
It was corner, straight to pay dirt. And again, that's a defensive tackle converted to a fullback 4 weeks ago, and a running back that thought he was going to be the bell cow. And that's how this team has come together and pulling for each other. And when you see him run down the sidelines, you see them all with their hands in the air, all excited because JK's going. And that one play, I think, says it all about the buy-in and how they Bleav in what they're doing out there.
No question. The buy-in, like you said, is unbelievable. You saw one team don't have the buy-in. You saw one team hoping someone makes a tackle. Even when JK gets on the sideline and freaking with the stiff arm, instead of the DB saying, I'm going to take his legs out, he lets the guy stiff arm and then push him in and he gets down the sideline. You saw guys hoping that someone makes a play. Yeah. I've been on those teams. I've been in Cincinnati when we won 2 games, and you know what? And I happened to go to the Pro Bowl that year. It was so frustrating, Money, to go out there and practice, to go out there and knowing what the outcome was going to be the following week, but you put your name on everything. That's when it's a situation where you're a player, you're in the Carolina Panthers, you're the Chargers, been in this situation before too. It's like, what do you do when it's dark and gloomy and you don't see light? What do you do when all the lights are off and you walk in there and you walk on the field and you know the results, what's going to happen, but you're like, I got to put my name on it. And you have to change mindsets, and you got to be like, okay, I know we're not going anywhere. How do I play the game within myself to say, I'm going to dominate when every time a team sees me or they turn on the film to watch this team play, they're going to say, you better be ready because 41 ain't going to quit. This guy's still going to play. He's going to play hard. And that's what you want to see. And that's what you didn't see out of Carolina, the sense of urgency on some of these guys. You saw them walking head down, just walking on mundane and just like, okay, what are we going to do? Waiting for someone to make plays. And you saw this Charger team galvanized. You saw guys on defense swarm tackling, playing to the end of the game. You saw guys playing the same way they were playing at the beginning of the game at the end. Guys still trying to strip the ball. Guys still trying to get sacks. That's what you want. You want to see your team play with that type of a bottle from snap to window because you're building a culture. Harbaugh's trying to build a bully. When you play bully ball like that and you run the ball and you're getting after guys on first and second down on defense, creating a new line of scrimmage, making your quarterback uncomfortable in the pocket, not giving him time to sit in that pocket and set his feet. You have guys coming from every type of angle, the twist game, the stunts, and you're building a bully, and teams start to see that like, okay, we got this Charger team. And this Charger team, you're starting to see. You see their chest starting to swell. You see Bosa injured, but he said, hey, I'm ready to play. Let me take a play off. But you see guys itching, chomping at the bit to get back on the field because they're having fun, Money. This team is having fun. It's only 2 weeks, and we know it's a long season, but they're having fun, and they Bleav because Harbaugh, it's instilled that with them, and now it's translating onto the field, and you're getting the results.
Yeah, and look, it was incredibly important for it to start this way. It was, when you have Justin Herbert at quarterback, and I got to credit Daniel Popper, what a brilliant job coming up with this stat. When you have Justin Herbert as your quarterback and all of that talent at that position, and he now has his career low for passing yards through 2 weeks of a season. He did not play in the first game his rookie year. He threw for more yards against the Chiefs in his first ever NFL start than he has in the last 2 weeks combined.
Are you serious?
Yes, it's a great stat that Popper pulled over at the Athletic. What a brilliant job by him, because that tells you, and you see him out there. You see him hugging Q with the touchdown. You see him laughing as he's jogging off the field with the win. And just to speak to more of that, like to get that guy to buy in, to know that, and look, this is a guy that plays through every injury. He would have, if the season wasn't lost last year, he would have played through the finger. Absolutely would have. Just the organization was like, nah, you're not doing that. But this is a guy who, I think everybody's got an ego. He knows his talent level. He knows how he's getting paid. He wants to be mentioned in the same sentence as Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. And it's not going to happen when in 2 weeks you got 274 yards passing and three passing touchdowns. But you talked about it, the buy-in. Look at Hayden Hurst. As I mentioned, 1 year prove-it deal after a rough go in Carolina, and he's got one reception for 5 yards on 2 targets. Go look at his quotes after the game. You would have thought he had 10 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. He wouldn't stop. He's like, they felt it. We imposed our will. You could see them start to give up. He was completely, even though he's not the primary blocking tight end, he's supposed to be the primary pass catching tight end. He's out there blocking his tail off. And he was totally fine with the assignment and loved it, and
I love it.
And then, and then another thing to bring up, is I think is we kind of shift away from the dominance, because again, we talked about the level of competition, but
I love it.
What we saw on display too is the depth that Joe Hortiz has built into this team. You lose Lowe, who's an emotional leader. He's the eyes of the defense. He's such a smart player at that high safety position. Sees everything. Make sure everyone is set. You lose him for this game. Elijah Molden, AJ Finley and Elijah Molden end up taking that. Yeah. And what happens? Molden ends up getting the interception. They don't miss a beat. Like we said, one for 12 on third down. You get and like that speaks to the depth that they have built. All these 1 year deals for these prove it deals for the guys are certainly paying huge dividends right now.
Oh, no question. The efficiency money is just through the roof. And that's the thing about it. When you look at this team and you talk about, hey, look, here's Herbert and all these guys just elated and so happy. Herbert is like, man, at night on Saturday night when he goes to bed, he's like, okay, I don't have to worry about necessarily going out and winning this game. It's Saturday night when you know your defense is a sieve. And when you knew that last year, and you had some players, but all the injuries, and you knew you're going to have to go out and throw 30 and 40, your mindset is different. Right. You go into that game and that week, you're like, oh my God, I got to be perfect. I know I'm going to have to throw the ball all around the field. Our running game, the running game was nowhere near what it is last year. Let's be real. Yeah. And you weren't efficient. And you're like, oh my goodness, our running game, I'm going to have to throw the ball. That's the reason why he was chunking it 40, 50 times a game. And then we'd go back and then people say, well, Herbert can't win the game. Well, you're like, yeah, low, but go look. You're down by double digits. You never was winning the game. Your defense has been horrible. And now Herbert's getting the blunt of it because people want to see wins. And so now you're in a situation where he does not have to be Superman. He doesn't have to have that cape on. But oh, by the way, he knows he's capable. But now you're putting this guy in a situation where he knows, okay, look, when I'm called upon, I need to be able to put that cape on. And you're going to be called upon, and I think it's going to be this week. They're looking at the Steelers, you're going to have to be efficient. You can't turn the ball over.
No.
But when you look at what he's been able to do, he's getting poised. I think he's being set up in a good situation that when he's going to be asked to go and do it and throw it 30, because they're going to get in some games, they're going to have to throw it 30 times, 30 plus. It's going to happen. It's football. But right now, it hasn't. And this is comforting to him. And it's good to know that he has a team around him. You look at Mahomes. You look at last week. You watch the way Kansas City played against Joe Burrow. You got to realize Kansas City ran the ball. They ran the ball. They were efficient on 30. They were efficient running the ball. 42, big fullback got in there, had some great runs, 15-yard runs. You saw Pacheco. They ran the ball, and they kept. And that's why Mahomes on third down can get more efficient. So when you have a complementary run game, you're going to be better served because I'm a strong believer. You cannot play basketball in the grass and pass every down and think you're going to win. You can't do it.
Yeah. It's like we said, it couldn't have started better. that they're able to get the buy-in. And then you've got someone on a redemption tour, not just J.K. Dobbins. Understandable, he gets all the attention. The idea that you think about the running back lineage in the Chargers history, and the fact that J.K. is the first back in Chargers history to rush for 100+ yards in each of the first 2 games is crazy. All the years of LT but that's what Harbaugh does. That's what he does. That's what he builds. So you've got that. But the other redemption tour that's perhaps being overshadowed is Quentin. And this is a coaching staff that from the day they arrived, they said they believed in Quentin. I've said it before here. Joe Hortiz put his name on him, said we were going to take him. If they took Flowers, we were taking Quentin. That's the way it was going to go. So they signed off on Quentin, and they're using him right. Week 1, they used him on those shallow crossers, all that yak. And then in this game, Herbert gave him the opportunity, on that 29-yard touchdown toss against, like I said, probably the best player on the Panthers in J.C. Horn, the corner, top 10 pick. Thank God they took him because it was the same draft as Slater. So happy they did that. But he ends up reaching, kind of getting behind, got a step right off the jump on that press coverage. And Herbert told him, if you can break press, I'm going to come at, if they press you, you can get around it, I'm coming at you. And he knew it was coming, squared it up, made a beautiful catch, for someone that's been tagged and is someone with suspect hands. And then, finds himself wide open in the end zone. And Herbert throws him a freaking laser, secures that, and now you got 2 touchdowns that match the 2 touchdowns he had all of last season. And you got it in 1 game, and that's going to do wonders for his confidence moving forward.
He's comfortable. And preseason, we talked about this guy in training camp. Hey, look, we talked about, hey, guys got to believe in himself. Off season, he start catching extra bases, doing all this stuff. You talked about, hey, being at training camp, watching him on the jugs machine, watching this guy try to perfect his craft, seeing, hey, at practice, he's like, man, I wasn't happy with practice. Watching the coach talk about, hey, look, this guy's got to believe in himself. He's got to do better catching the ball with his hands instead of the body. Don't let it get on him. And Quentin looks so comfortable. You're watching catch the ball and you're watching moving with the balls in his hand. He's a playmaker. You're starting to see the comfortable big body, tall, can go up and catch the best, but you see him in the body control. You're just looking at the comfort, and you listen at Harbaugh. Harbaugh said, we believe in this guy. Harbaugh says everyone's been talking about him, and look at it. He just unfazed, and all he does is keep his head down. He keeps working. He doesn't get the big head. And you heard Herbert. They're so happy for Quentin. Q has stepped up. He silenced a lot of his critics. And guess what? They're going to need him. You're going to need a true number 1 when you're playing against the Steelers. You're going to need that passing game. Guys are going to get after you. They're going to need him. And he's been answering the bell. And it's great, like you said, that he's had this type of start this early in the season.
Yeah, we'll preview the game in a podcast a little bit later this week. But I want to make sure we mention the defense, because the linebacker level is where a lot of the business got done. Dayon with his first, obviously last week was his first start, so there's no reason why he would ever have double-digit tackles. But Dayon with 10 tackles at the linebacker spot, along with the tackle for loss. Denzel with 7, and that sack, that took the Panthers out of field goal range early in the game and really kind of set the tone. So great to see. And then, as we mentioned, Elijah Molden in place of the injured Alohi Gilman ends up with 7 as well. Joey gets the sack. Bryce kind of should have climbed that pocket, but just worked his way back too far. Most took advantage of it. Pressure was on him all day. And they were able to rotate the guys. But, Dayon got one of the game balls. He was all over the field like we expect, like the missile that he is. It's just, hey, man, just go. You don't – I think Dayon, the key with him is don't make him think. Let him just use that athleticism. When you see
ball,
it, go
ball.
Get it. That's
see
it.
Ball, get ball.
Yeah, I think that's how you do it. And then to have Denzel out there get that sack was pretty. I think it was only 7.5 for his career. So love to see that in year 10, able to pick one of those up. And he's been a big. We were talking to some of the people from the Panthers broadcast before the game, and they had mentioned they're like, Denzel's a perfect example of what's going on here. Why would you let that guy go? He's such a great leader. Everybody here loved him. He's not like he was that expensive, and just sets a tone setter on defense. And they let him go, and before you know it, here we go. A couple years later, he's on the Chargers and he's mentoring and tutoring Junior Colson and Dayon Henley. And that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about, to have those pros that can help, mentor. Bradley Bozeman's already become the captain, the leader of that offensive line. Bring him in at that center position, grab that, like most centers do, grab that leadership position immediately. So those players they identified with the limited amount of money they had to spend because of all the cap hits they were taking, with cutting Mike Williams, with keeping Khalil and Joey, with trading Keenan, they had to do a little bit of bargain shopping and try to get their dollar to stretch a little bit further than other teams. And boy, it really has. And a lot of that was on display Sunday. So great win. I think, we mentioned the team stats. I should put a bow on it. I mean, it's just, all you got to say is, again, 1 for 12 on third down and 7 first downs and a time of possession advantage, 36 to 20 or 36 and a half to 23 and a half. Like, they just completely and totally dominated the game over a far inferior opponent, and they were able to get a little bit of rest out of it.
Oh, no question. And that's what you're happy most, because you want the rest, because you got the Steelers coming up. And, to wrap this thing up is, like you said, those players, Denzel, those are glue players. See, you got to have those glue players. Those are those guys that not necessarily going to have a bunch of stats, but there's those guys that are going to be the first in the meeting room. Those are those guys going to show guys how to practice. Those are guys taking guys under their wing and teach them how to be a pro. Those are the guys in doing bad time. You know what? The teams don't come apart at the seams.
Right.
Those are guys in tough times where the seams get stronger. Like, hey, guys, we've had some good times. When adversity hits, how are those glue guys going to hold those young guys together? That's the part that Harbaugh is banking on for those veteran, but good veterans, glue guys that keep guys in tough times. So looking forward to seeing how these guys handle adversity. Also, just keep it going and heading in the right direction.
Yeah, as we said, 2-0. One of the best records in the NFL, and some of the best stats in the NFL. You can only play the teams that are on your schedule. So for people that want to point out, they played the Panthers. So be it. Now they got to go to Pittsburgh. We'll preview that game on a later pod, so keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, thanks for downloading, listening. We always appreciate you, and be sure to keep your eyes open, because it's going to be coming in a hurry, maybe as soon as tomorrow.